my co-host Arielle Schafer, and special guest RJ Nealon. He's best friends with Arielle, and he covers the Special Olympics. And he used to be an ESPN intern, and really looking forward to this interview. This is going to be an honor. And first of all, how are you and your family doing so far during this tough situation?
We're doing well. We're trying to be the best that we can be. I'm lucky that we have sports back, because without it, I was going insane. But my family, my mom works in healthcare, so she's busy working, and my dad's a law enforcement officer, so he's working.
Oh, wow.
But 2020, man, what a crazy year.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What a crazy year. But I want to talk about you real fast. So like Nathan said, former ESPN intern, I know you from being at school with you at Alabama, and also you're a reporter for the Special Olympics. So talk about your journey in this industry. Like, what made you want to get into sports to begin with?
So I've always been into sports. I've loved sports since I was a little kid. I've played football ever since I was in first grade, when the pads were too big and you'd trip over your feet. And I looked up to Stuart Scott. He was the one. I looked up to him and I wanted to be him. And so I was like, I'm going to be a journalist. And when I was, looking at schools, Alabama was the one because of the athletic department. I was like, man, the connections to the athletic department are second to none. And when I was at ESPN, one of the executives compared me to Stuart Scott.
Wow.
And it was that moment that I had to take a deep breath and make sure I didn't get into a fan, zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a moment I knew I was meant for this. I knew I was doing what I was meant to do.
That's amazing. Wow. So speaking of these connections, what's it like building these connections while growing up playing football, and obviously now used to being an ESPN intern, and what's it like just building those relationships, the people that you look up to, for example, like Kevin Nagandi, which I had on the show, and Jay Harris, the late Stuart Scott, and what's it like just building those relationships in your career?
It's so important. I mean, if you don't build relationships, you're not going to make it very far in this industry. And the most important thing is just reach out to them, because chances are they're going to see your message and they're going to respond. I've noticed some of the biggest names in the sports journalism industry are the kindest human beings that you will ever meet.
Yeah, for sure.
And they will sit down with you and talk, and they will give you criticism, and they will help you get better. They will help you get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. It's like all about networking and making those connections, like you and I networked and stuff. And it's been so great. Definitely with the sports Twitter world, I feel like, they welcome you with open arms. Like, I get it. Yes, it's competitive, but it's really cool to be interacting with people who might be halfway across the country.
And it's not even connecting with other journalists.
Yeah.
Connect with coaches, connect with athletes. I've connected with Patrick Murphy, the softball coach in Alabama, and he's sat down with me and has talked to me about, like, what questions do coaches like journalists to ask? What questions, tick them off?
Yeah.
And that's really helped me, structure my questions better.
Yeah. You know who you should do? You should try to see if you sit down with Nick Saban, because he's like one of the hardest people to interview.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, RJ. Like, he is one of the hardest people to interview.
I've asked him one question and it came out, it didn't even come out right. Like, I think it didn't even make sense. But you know what? I asked him that one question, and I would take that throughout my career. I asked Nick Saban a question, and I was a freshman at Alabama. How many freshmen can say that?
No, I didn't interview him until I was a senior, and I was scared to death. They're like, holy crap. Like, he's he's a little scary, but we talk about these networking and stuff. So how was your experience as an ESPN intern? Because obviously you made so many connections there. So, and also a lot of people don't know, it's so hard to become an ESPN intern. Like the process to get there is incredible. Like, you have to be one of a kind. So RJ, you're one of a kind. So kind of describe your time at ESPN as an intern.
So it went back to networking. It really did. I was in Dr. Billings' class at Alabama, and we had a guest speaker, Chris LaPlaca, who's a senior vice president of corporate communications at ESPN. And he came on campus, he spoke to our class, and I had told him my connection with Special Olympics and Kevin Nagandi, and we kept in touch. And I sent him an article on my blog, and he was like, hey, we have this ESPN internship that I think you'd be really good at. He was like, I want you to apply. So I applied. He put in a good word for me, got the interview. And let me tell you, the interview process was really, really intimidating. But, being at ESPN was like an adult summer camp. It was the most competitive, rewarding, and intimidating 10 weeks of my life. But it was incredible because it was so eye-opening. And it really, I was in a programming department, so I wasn't even doing really journalism work. But I got to work with Twitter with the X Games, and I got to go out to Minneapolis, Minnesota for the games, and I got to write a story for ESPN.com on Special Olympics.
Wow. Speaking of the Special Olympics, take me back when they gave you the opportunity to cover them, and how grateful are you to be in this position right now, covering one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best Olympic sports they have out there, Special Olympics. And what's it like just covering that, connecting with those people on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I was a Special Olympic athlete for about 14 years, and then I got to Alabama, and I know it's not a collegiate sport, but it was just too much for me. So props to you, Arielle, being a student athlete, because I just couldn't do it. It was too much. So I stepped back and I stopped competing, but I stayed involved. I wanted to continue sharing the stories of the athletes. And I had graduated last December, and then the pandemic hit.
Right.
And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be tough to find a job. And Special Olympics North America came to me and said, hey, we have a communication fellow opportunity for you to be an athlete reporter. Is it something you'd be interested in? And I was like, yes, absolutely. What better way to start my career with the organization that made me fall in love with storytelling?
So what has been your favorite story you've gotten to tell with Special Olympics?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I have two. One of them is Noah Vitti, the one I did with ESPN with the X Games. He was from the Philippines and had a rough childhood and came to the United States, and had he not had brain surgery, he would have died. And that was really remarkable that I was the one able to share his story. And then the second one was with Loretta Claiborne, and I got to share her story of social racial injustice. And it was incredible because it happened around the time of George Floyd's death. And, it was just really special that Special Olympics asked me to write that story. And it's the most powerful story that I have ever written. And it's a story that's going to continue to be a big story throughout my whole career.
So, so what's it like just writing these inspiring stories and obviously sharing your own story, being a Special Olympic athlete also yourself for 14 years. So what's it like just talking to those people and sharing your own story and relating to them, and while writing their stories?
It means a lot because I can add a piece of my story to the story. Being a former athlete, I can add a piece to the story that no other journalist can do. just like, for example, Wright Thompson with ESPN, when he writes those football stories about Ole Miss football, he adds a section to each story about his childhood love for Ole Miss that nobody else can do. Tom Rinaldi does the same thing. So I try to incorporate my story into each person's story to make it that much stronger.
I love that. I love how you add that little bit of personality and that little bit of like inside scoop. But so like we said, you're doing some stuff on air too, because I know you've been working on that. And then also like your passion is writing. So for the aspiring sports writers out there, what are your top 3 tips for them to get better and get into the writing business?
To be open-minded. I was a strict writer. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit that I started doing on-camera work. And now I love being on camera and I want to do more of it. The second piece is listen to the subject. Just listen. Don't go in with a list of questions. Just listen to them and ask the questions based on their answers. And sometimes, get to know the person behind the story. So if, depending on what they're wearing, like ask them about their shirt or something. Ask them some weird question, because you never know what you're going to come up with.
Yeah. I love that. I love that all 3 of those pieces of advice. And, want to ask you some sports questions, actually. So, tomorrow, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson, Ohio State. So who do you think is going to win the Alabama Notre Dame game? And then what do you expect for the Clemson, Ohio State game?
Well, I think Alabama wins big.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's just too strong, too fast, too physical. Notre Dame has a good running game, but Alabama's defensive front is big, strong, fast, and they're starting to get their swagger back.
Right.
Florida had a really special offense when they had those key offensive starters in. We didn't see them last night against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But, the last 7 weeks of the season, we saw that Alabama defensive swagger. So I think Alabama's just going to be too strong. And then you have Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, John Mechie.
Yeah.
I'd say around maybe 45-13 type score.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then Clemson, Ohio State's interesting, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Ohio State did not look good against Northwestern.
No, it didn't.
But I'll throw this at you. I think Northwestern has one of the best defensive back groups in the country. I don't think individually they're the best defensive backs, but as a unit, I think Northwestern has one of the best defensive back units. And not playing that much also hurts. But Trevor Lawrence is special.
Yeah.
Even when if they play Alabama in a national championship, I think it's going to be tough to beat Clemson. But I have Clemson beating Ohio State. I think it's going to be closer than people think. Maybe 38-31 type score. There's going to be points scored.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Fields has something to prove. The whole team has something to prove after Dabo Swinney put him at number 11.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was talking to our friend Courtney. I came on his show yesterday, and I was like, I feel like Ohio State, like, there's a big question mark for me because we don't have that much data on them, like obviously they got into the college football playoffs because they were the conference champion and they have a good track record, but I'm just really interested to see how it is, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than what a lot of people think, like you said, because they're just a huge question mark. Like, I don't know much about them. I can't say, like, I could break down Clemson's defense and offense with or without Trevor Lawrence, like we have the data on them, data on Notre Dame, data on Alabama, but Ohio State, like, I personally think if Ohio State beats Clemson, Alabama should be worried.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And people that, there's people that say wipe out Clemson's one loss to Notre Dame. But here's my take on that. DJ, I still can't pronounce his last name right.
Oh,
So I'm just going to say DJ.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
When DJ throws for over 400 yards and that many touchdowns, that Notre Dame team is a good team.
Mhm.
Because when you're putting up those kind of stats and still lose, that's a good team you're playing against.
Oh, yeah.
So Notre Dame won fair and square. I'm not taking that away from them. But when Trevor Lawrence is in, he takes so much pressure off of Travis Etienne and every other starter that it's just a smoother ride.
Yeah.
And I think Ohio State has more to prove this year than any other number 4 team in the past, whether it was Alabama, Notre Dame, or Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, wow. It's gonna be interesting. I can't wait for tomorrow, man. It's gonna be epic on New Year's Day when everybody's hungover or something. So
and the big game too is Cincinnati, Georgia.
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, Cincinnati.
I mean, if Cincinnati gets blown out, I mean that just proves again that there's no need to expand the playoff. 4 teams is just fine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you that. Speaking of the college football playoffs, in my opinion, I think they need to expand it to at least 8 teams. In my opinion, to give more teams a fair shot. Like for example, like Coastal Carolina, this team is like the Cinderella story of college football, in my opinion. And I think they need to expand it to 8 teams to give these other teams a fair shot. What do you think?
Yeah, so I would love the playoff to expand because I would love more games and I would love to see certain matchups.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my thing with that. We saw Coastal Carolina lose to Liberty.
Yeah.
Liberty lost to NC State. And both incredible teams.
Mm-hmm.
Both phenomenal teams. There's future NFL players on that Coastal team.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't tell me that level of competition was the same as an Alabama Clemson.
Yeah, no.
Or Alabama Notre Dame matchup. That I just don't want to see blowouts. And if there was an 8-team playoff, technically Florida would have been in the playoff. And I just don't want to see a 3-loss Florida team in the playoff.
Yeah, no.
So it's going to be – I think they do expand it when the contract's up. I think the contract's up in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think they expand it, but it won't be expanded until then.
Yeah.
So we're stuck with 4 teams.
Yeah, there was a question of like due to COVID, like and due to the teams like not getting enough games in, is it a fair shot? Should they expand it to 8 games? But in my opinion, I was like, no, keep it to 4 because like basically everything you said, we don't want to see any blowouts in the college football playoffs. But also too with COVID, like keep the teams small, like keep the amount of teams that are in small because of exposure. And then can you imagine trying to reschedule a playoff game? I mean.
And we still may see a blowout. Clemson may blow out Ohio State, and Alabama very well could blow out Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see Alabama blow out Coastal Carolina. I know it's college football and it's Division I, but I would feel incredibly bad for those Coastal Carolina boys if they got blown because they should have never. People would be like they should have never been matched up with Alabama.
Yeah.
Or Clemson.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I mean, you see a lot of times like with the top 4, like Alabama plays some, teams that they bring in who are D1, but they're small D1. And they blow them out at home. And you're sitting here like, why? Like you forget sometimes that these teams are D1. But isn't it something to do with the money? Like when, like say if a UAB comes in and plays Alabama, since they play Alabama.
They get a lot of money.
They get a lot of money,
Just like Alabama plays Kent State every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Partially because it's Nick Saban's alumni, but also because they get paid 7 figures to come in, get beat, basically. So there is money involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of it.
Going to be very interesting tomorrow. I'm very excited.
It's going to be very interesting because it could very well. Booger McFarland thinks the game Alabama Notre Dame is going to be close. And I'm just like, my guy, like,
yeah, I just
no,
think
it's
this
not.
the Notre Dame coaching, like they don't have like they get to this
Yeah.
point like all the time, and just like there's no one can help them break through that brick wall. Because if you think about it historically, Notre Dame has had great players go to the pros and they've had good pro careers. It's just like as a team, they just like can't get through that
They
last
haven't
hurdle.
been good as a team since the 90s.
Yes. Yes.
Like, they used to be what Alabama is. And so was Miami. And,
Yeah.
they just fell down and they never picked themselves back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So, we talked about like the 14 playoff of college football, but now we have the issue of March Madness, and believe it or not, it's coming up faster than we think. And, we've had some games be cancellation of games already through all conferences. So what do you predict is going to happen with March Madness? Is it going to be May Madness? Is it going to be a bubble? Like, kind of give me your thoughts on that.
I've actually been thinking about that recently because there's some teams that have only played 1 or 2 games,
Right.
and then there's some teams that have played like 8 or 9 games. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's going to be just madness, like legit madness when it comes down, because games start to really matter in January and February. They're in conference play now, but games really start to matter in January and February. But some teams haven't even gotten to that point where games matter yet.
Right.
And so it's going to be madness. I'm very interested to see, one, how the format's going to be. If they tighten the tournament, if they expand the tournament, I have no idea.
Speaking of college basketball, who are some of your sleeper teams this year? Because I feel like there's a team that no one is talking about where I live 50 minutes away from Rutgers University. They're playing great basketball, and they're like, 7-1, I think. But what are your sleeper teams this year in college basketball?
I was gonna say Rutgers. Man,
Right?
they're playing incredible basketball right now. I'd also say Northwestern. They're playing incredible basketball. I'm always a guy that loves the really small schools. Rutgers is still they're a big school.
Yeah.
I really love the small schools. So they're probably not gonna do anything. But UMBC.
Okay.
They haven't, they beat Virginia that one year in the tournament as a 16 seed, and they're the local team for me. They're the local school. So I'm going to say UMBC, but I love the Cinderella story. So UMBC, Florida Gulf Coast. I just want to see one of them teams back in it.
Yeah.
How
I would
about
love to see
Oh,
that.
yeah. How about Loyola College? The one when they had the deep run, I think it was like 2 years ago. I think 3 years ago.
Loyola Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sister Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that team. Like, I adopt these teams. I feel like with college basketball and March Madness, like my mom doesn't really watch college sports or sports in general like I do. But when it comes to March Madness, she absolutely loves it because she loves the players getting excited. She loves the upsets. And she fell in love with that team.
Wow.
And how much they adored Sister Mary, or I think that was her name.
I think it's Sister Jean, right? Or Sister Mary.
Sister Jean.
Sister Jean. Yeah.
Sister Jean.
she absolutely loved how much they adored her.
Yeah. It's so, oh man, I just get goosebumps because I miss March Madness. I love it because like our team, we start our winter training like well, not winter training, spring training. It feels like winter training because it's so cold actually in Alabama, believe it or not. But so we are all in like the ice baths, like after, because it's mandatory after rowing practice during spring training, and we all have our phones out and we're like, each of us have like a separate game on so we can all like keep it while we're doing our recovery, we can keep in touch, like, oh, what's the score of that game? What's the score of that game? And then we like, I mean, obviously we can't, NCAA rules, we can't put any money down, but we have our own brackets, whatever, and we write it down on paper, and we can't make any bets. It's just bragging rights. So, but
yeah, that's a common misconception that people don't understand. It is cold in Alabama.
yes.
It does get very cold in Alabama.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going back. I go back on Saturday, and we have to start our 2-a-days, and like, so due to COVID, we have to be for 2 weeks in like pods, so we can only like have 5 or 6 girls out, but we all have to be in like singles. But since it's been raining so much in Alabama, the water's really fast and really unsafe on the Black Warrior River. So I'm like scared to death because I hate being in a single. It's a 1-person boat, and obviously single, but it's so hard to balance. And they already assigned boats, and I have the boat with the freaking like training wheels on it because they don't want me to flip, because I flipped this boat like multiple times, but it was in the September, so it was warm. So if I went for a swim, like, cool, I can get back up and like no big deal, probably cool me off. But now since the weather's so like cold, if I flip, like I gotta get back to the dock and like warm up, because I'm not gonna be able to get back in the boat because it's gonna be too cold. So I am not excited. If you can see my face, I am not excited about going back and rowing a single and being yelled at for how terrible my technique is. And don't flip. I'm gonna be sitting there, don't flip the whole entire time. So, but it gets very cold, and people think like, oh yeah, Alabama, you should be tan year round. No, it's like there's a period for like 2 months where it just rains constantly.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, there's my spiel on that. So do you miss it? Do you miss school?
I miss Tuscaloosa so much. Like, I want to go back so bad. Like, every time I think about it, I get sad. Like, I miss college so much. When people tell you it's the best 4 years of your life, it's literally the best 4 years of your life.
Yeah.
And I had, there's so many opportunities that I took advantage of. The school newspaper, the local TV station, the athletic department, that, you know, I tell freshmen when they reach out to me, take advantage of everything, because your 4 years is going to go by so fast. And now that it's over, like, I wish I could go back and do it all over again.
Yeah.
I gotta put Alabama on my bucket list. I've never been there before, Alabama.
And you got to go to an Alabama football game.
No, I'm a big Roll Tide fan. I'm from Jersey too, so like I'm a big Roll Tide fan, and people ask me, you know, the 2 places that I never been to is Dallas. Well, I'm a Cowboy fan also, so I never been to Dallas and never been to Alabama. So I gotta put those 2 places on my bucket list for next year.
Oh yeah, you got to go to an Alabama LSU game.
Yeah, that's a good one. Where
I'd say Alabama LSU, because the atmosphere is hostile and electric.
Yeah, I would even say, even though Tennessee sucks, like the rivalry of Tennessee, and like cigars at the end is such a tradition and so classic. Like, I love that. But nothing beats working in Alabama. Going to one Alabama game. I say working because I've been working them for like X amount of years. So, yeah. Oh man, making me emotional because I have like.
And I miss seeing all you guys. Like, I just miss going to work and seeing other journalists that do the same thing as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been stuck in my house for the entire year. I know we all have.
Yeah.
But like, I used to go to class, and the sports journalism school at Alabama, like, I don't think it's that big.
No, it's not. We're a small knit.
I knew like almost everyone, or I knew of them.
Yeah.
And it was like, just so much fun.
Yeah, no, we're a small knit group and I like that. I loved being able to go like into class with your best friend. It makes you want to go to class actually, to be honest. But
And that's part of the reason why I have so much, whether they win or lose, like this team means so much to me because I'm really good friends with Chris Allen.
Oh wow.
I know I am too.
And
I'm so happy for him.
dude, he's playing out of his mind.
And I knew he was gonna end up playing out of his mind. It's just like it was just the right time. Like, I was just waiting for him to get that opportunity to move up.
Like he's playing out of his mind. And I was in one class with him, and the professor just kept giving him a hard time, and I just didn't understand why. And I'm just so happy for him.
Oh yeah, me
Is
too.
is he in the NFL draft this year or?
He'll
No,
probably
he's
he'll probably come back and then he'll declare one more. Yeah,
if he leaves, he let his ego get to his head. I mean, it was like a Cardell Jones.
Yeah, Cardell Jones. Oh my God, he fell off.
Like if he leaves, it's because he let people get in his ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if he comes back, he has a chance to be the voice of that defense.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Along with Christian Harris, of course.
I'll watch tape on Chris Allen. Man, this guy is he can obviously a hard-nosed hitter, and he has a knack of the ball. So I think, like you guys said, if he comes back for another year, if he learns again in the Alabama system, then he'll be definitely ready for the draft the following year. Because this guy is, I think, to be honest, he's one of the top-rated defensive backs in my opinion.
Go watch some of his film. It's hard to find, but watch some of his film from freshman season and sophomore season. Because he redshirted.
Yeah, he did.
It's hard to find. Like he played against like Mercer, like very rarely. Just the progression of him to the ball, finding where the ball is, and just his speed. I mean, he's had like 8 defensive player of the weeks. Like, I'm just so proud of him. So, like, whether this team wins or loses it, like, I'm just so proud of him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So we're going to do this little thing called our rapid fire section.
Before we get to that, I want to ask, I got 2 things for you. Hold on, before we get to the rapid fire segment, I want to ask you about the Heisman Trophy race. Obviously, Alabama has 3 players in there: Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, and you have Najee. Not Najee. It was Najee Harris in there.
Najee finished 5th, even though I don't think that was correct.
2 Alabama players or 3?
I have my thoughts on the Heisman.
Oh, 2. Okay.
There's 2. Yeah, Najee. Trask got in over Najee.
Oh my God.
I have my thoughts on the Heisman.
So, what are your thoughts on the Heisman race with Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and the other Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Trask? But I think Mac Jones, everybody's saying that Mac Jones deserves it, but look at Devontae Smith, man. This guy is putting up numbers. And obviously Mac Jones is the one who throws the ball to him. But when it comes to the stats and number, between those 2, who would you choose?
Yeah, so I 100% am on the Devontae Smith train. If you asked me a few weeks ago, I was fully aboard the Mac Jones train. Now I'm on the Devontae Smith. He deserves it the most. He's the most outstanding player in the country. And speaking of Kyle Trask, whether he had his superstars last night or not, he's not a Heisman finalist.
No.
He's just not a Heisman finalist. He looked lost out there without his superstars.
Yeah.
He just did not look comfortable. And he got benched. Like, that should tell you right there. Like, he got benched in a bowl game. Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, Dabo Swinney put Ohio State number 11 because the games played. Well, Trevor Lawrence missed 3 games.
Right.
So if games played matters for the rankings, games played should matter for the Heisman Trophy. Dabo can't have it both ways. So I think Devontae Smith gets it.
Okay.
I hope he gets it. But last night's bowl game also shows me why the Heisman Trophy votes should not be due until after the season is complete.
Right.
Yes.
Because you still have Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, and Trevor Lawrence still playing in potentially two of the biggest games of their career.
Mm.
Shouldn't those stats count?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't. I think Devontae Smith gets it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope he gets it
I hope
because
he
that
gets it.
dude's just playing out of his
Yeah.
mind. Talking about Chris Allen playing out of his mind.
Oh my
Devontae
God.
Smith's been playing out of his mind.
I have Devontae Smith projected to go to New England in the draft to the Patriots because I think obviously Patriots need more weapons and he can be a perfect fit in New England. Whoever the quarterback is next year, Devontae Smith, they need a receiver like Devontae Smith, and I think New England. Bill Belichick obviously has an Alabama connection with Nick Saban, so I think Devontae Smith will be able to fit into that system.
Yeah, I would absolutely. Depending on what they do with the quarterback situation in New England, I think Devontae Smith would fit well in the Patriots system. And like you said, Belichick and Saban are best friends. He has that connection. I would love Mac Jones if he went to New England. I've heard a lot of rumors about it happening. I would love that. Najee Harris, I think he should have been a Heisman finalist. I mean, look, you got a shortened season, and he's passing Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram's numbers, and both of those guys won the Heisman.
I know.
Doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think he got snubbed. But look, one thing about Najee is he always has a smile on his face, and that dude, I mean, just
Sorry.
he loves to play football, so I don't think it bothers him too much.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I thought Najee definitely got cheated out, and I think it was just because they didn't want 3 Alabama players to be.
Oh, I think it
there.
was fully politically driven.
Oh yeah, but anyway, like I love Najee too. He always has a great smile on his face. He's one of my favorite people to interview and talk to.
He gained
But
a whole lot of fans
yes.
yesterday talking about Megan Rapinoe.
Oh my gosh, he loves her. I was so happy.
He loves her.
I was so happy someone finally asked him that, and I also was so happy she like responded to him. I've been waiting for that collaboration for like a year.
She quote tweeted him.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for that. I was like, I don't know if it just got lost or whatever, but I was like, okay, hello. Like I've been waiting for
got lost because somebody like Megan, I doubt she has her notifications turned on.
Oh yeah, no way. But I was so happy. I was like, finally, this collaboration is happening. I've been waiting for this. We all have been waiting for this. But yeah, no, Najee's such a good guy. So I'm very, very happy for him. And I think he might go to Miami.
Wow.
I've been hearing that as well.
Yeah, I think he might go to Miami because him and Tua, like if you look at Miami, what Flores got going on, it's a very young team. He's building. He's trying to develop the talent. And because a lot of people are like, oh, don't pull Tua because maybe Tua is better than Fitzpatrick. No, like he's developing talent. And that's what you need with a young quarterback. I think Jalen, for example, at Philly, I think it's hard for him because now he's had one bad game and they're ready to run him out of town. Like, how is he going to develop as a young quarterback, as a rookie quarterback when you're in an organization like that and with the leadership? So I definitely think he could go to Miami. Miami needs someone to run the ball. They don't have anybody running the ball. They have some good receivers. They have the awesome tight end, Jazeki, who actually is from New Jersey, believe it or not. So, yeah, I mean, I think Najee would be a perfect fit with Miami.
I mean,
and it would be awesome to see him and Tua reunite because that would be just so great.
That'd be that if the Dolphins do get Najee Harris, man, oh my God, that team is going to be a playoff team. Obviously, they're going to be a playoff team this year, hopefully, but
they'd be able to win a playoff game and contend potentially.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Are you ready for this rapid fire segment?
Yes.
All right, Arielle, you want to start off?
Yes. Okay, so obviously you've traveled around everywhere, with the ESPN, Special Olympics. So I want to know do you like the East Coast better or the West Coast better?
West Coast.
West
Hmm.
Coast. Why?
It's always been a place I've wanted to live, and I love the mountains, snowboarding, most importantly.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, cool.
All right. Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Ooh, Kawhi Leonard.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I think when he asked me when I came on his show a couple months ago, I think I said Kawhi too. But are you a coffee drinker?
No.
No? Okay. I was going to ask you either Starbucks or Dunkin', but I don't know if you go to either one of them or
Well,
Wawa.
during my time at ESPN, they had me drinking black coffee or Starbucks drinks, so I'd stop drinking Monster Energy.
Oh, you're an energy drink guy. Okay.
Like 4 Monster Energies a day.
Wow.
Wow.
Ooh, that's
Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead, Nathan.
what was your most memorable game that you covered?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Hmm.
Um, ooh, that's hard, man. It's- does it have to be a game?
Uh,
I'd say the X Games.
okay.
I'd say the X Games because a game, I mean, I can't choose between Alabama games. They're all memorable.
Hmm.
Let's see. The NBA finals were the March Madness tournament.
March Madness tournament.
Hmm.
Okay.
Favorite NFL team?
Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, let's go.
Ooh, yikes. Peyton Manning or Eli Manning?
Peyton Manning. Come on.
See, I say Eli because of social media.
Mhm.
He's
No,
funny
Peyton
as heck
Manning.
on social.
Peyton Manning because of his commercials. Come on.
Oh yeah, you're true. You're true about that.
Uh, favorite hip hop artist?
Post Malone or Nipsey Hussle.
Okay.
You hustle. I saw Post Malone live. I think it was definitely one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Like, if you guys
I
like,
want to drink a Bud Light with him.
oh my gosh, so cool, such a cool dude.
Speaking of Post Malone, a quick funny story actually. Me and my friend Shane we went to LBI during the summer of last year just to hang out, and we met Post Malone's account manager there.
Really?
So
Yeah.
cool.
That's
We were blasting Post Malone in the car, right? And then this car came on the side of us, and he said to us, "Are you really blasting Post Malone?" I'm his account manager. He said, "What?" Yeah, that's crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Okay. LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan by 1,000.
Wow.
No debate. There's no debate. Michael Jordan, there's no debate. The Last Dance secured it for me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So who is the funniest person that you work with right now?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Well, who is the funniest person or the coolest, most interesting person you've ever interviewed then?
That I ever interviewed. I mean, the funniest, I'd have to say probably Quinnen Williams.
He is so cute. Oh my God, his little
Quinnen
smile.
Williams is just, I'd have to say Quinnen Williams because he's just, I mean, bless you, thank you. Just those type of things. Like, he's just a goofball and
Wow.
he just enjoys life and he doesn't let the fame or the money or anything like get a hold of his age. Like, I know he's older and he probably should act a little bit more mature, but you know what? We're all kids at heart, and he should be an example. It's okay to have fun
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not take every job so seriously.
Yep, for sure. You got any more for yourself?
Yeah, I do. Okay, so I was okay. So if you talked about The Last Dance and how you really, really liked it. So if ESPN had to do another Last Dance type documentary, who would you want it to be on? Like what athlete should that, be the Michael
Well,
Jordan?
I think they've already announced they're doing one on Tom Brady.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
think
who
they've
would you
already
want?
announced that.
Who would you want if you were the producer at ESPN? What athlete would you want to feature on a documentary like that?
Michael Phelps.
That's a good one.
Michael Phelps. I have a huge picture of him hanging up at my mom's house of him doing a butterfly when he was in, I believe it was a Sydney Games.
Mm.
When his face, the picture is like, I don't know, incredible photographer. His face is like still underwater, but it looks like he's above water and the water is like glass. It's incredible.
Mm.
But I think you have to have him up there as one of the greatest athletes of all time, right?
Oh yeah.
You have to.
For
Whether
sure.
you watch swimming or Olympics or not, like him and Simone Biles, I think you have to put them up there.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That was my last one. Nathan, do you got another one?
Yeah. Favorite food?
Favorite food? I'm gonna have to say burrito
Okay.
from Chipotle.
Mm.
The favorite food I actually ever had though was during my 2-week trip to the rainforest in Peru with my grandfather. I don't remember what it was, but it was in a village about a couple miles into the rainforest. That was the best meal I ever had.
Wow.
And it looked like some type of fish and some type of like salad type food. I don't know, but it was the best meal I ever had.
Love that.
So we always end the show with 2 inspiring questions. So I guess I'll start off. So one of the questions we asked is about the late Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and the reason why that he was one of my biggest role models growing up. And when I heard the Gianna news, that was devastating. But for you, do you remember where you were at that day when that happened, and what did they mean to you?
You're gonna make, yeah. Yeah, I do. Kobe was my biggest role model.
Mm-hmm.
Above Stuart Scott, it was Kobe that made me fall in love with basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe's mentality of being the best at no matter what it was the thing that drove me to be the best at what I'm doing now. He was the first, I guess you'd call it, celebrity or athlete that crushed me.
Right.
I was heartbroken. I cried for days as if I knew him personally.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving to the grocery store with my mom when I opened Instagram and saw the news that he had passed. And I mean, every day I still think about him, and I still think of every assignment I do. Is this the best I've got? Because the Mamba mentality, man. Like, he's the greatest, at what he did, and I want to be the greatest at what I do.
Right.
And I'm not gonna let anybody outwork me.
Well said. Right.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best responses we ever gotten to that question, like hands down.
I mean, that got me. Like,
yeah.
It really got me too.
Me too. Oh man, I remember that day we were doing a show. I was doing one of my sideline shows for women's basketball for Alabama, and we had to break the news like on the broadcast, and just didn't seem real. Like, it was so hard to report on something like that, because when it first came across, because TMZ is the one who broke the news, and no one takes TMZ seriously. Sorry. Like, they don't really, okay, I was sitting there listening to my ear. I'm like, okay, that's like kind of ridiculous. Like, come on, TMZ. Like, that's something like you shouldn't joke about. And then when it did.
I actually have a friend. She works for TMZ. She's like a newsroom editor.
Oh.
And so I texted her
Right.
and I was like, "Is this real? Like this can't be real." And she was like, "It is. He died in a helicopter crash. TMZ broke the news." And he was the first celebrity athlete that I was completely heartbroken. Like, I mean, still to this day, I get emotional thinking of him and talking about him because he meant that much to me, and what he meant to the sport of basketball and just the entire world. Like, dude had an impact that nobody else had.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Whew. That's it's just making me emotional, but I think his legacy will still live on forever, and I'm happy that I didn't know him personally, that he made an impact on my life, and Gianna did too, especially he was so involved with the bringing of women's sports and stuff in the WNBA, so that was really cool for me to see. And my sister is a big fan. My dad grew up watching him, obviously, so it's gone too soon. Definitely gone too soon. And it always makes me question the thing of, everything happens for a reason, but why does something like that have to happen? Like that
Yeah.
saying, like, everything happens. No, something like that doesn't need to happen. But our last question to you is obviously 2020. I think the persons of the year is the healthcare workers, 100%. They have been through the unthinkable. So we always ask our guest, what is something you would like to say to thank the healthcare workers who have gone above and beyond for us this year?
To all healthcare workers, I'd like to say a big thank you for putting your lives out on the line for us so we can, enjoy the things that we do at home and enjoy the things we can do in small gatherings. And I'd like to send a personal thank you to my mom,
Mhm.
who continues to work long hours, multiple times a week with little to no rest to work in the ER and the testing sites of this pandemic. I hope the pandemic is ending soon. I know there's a vaccine, so
Yeah.
there's light at the end of the tunnel. But big thank you. And I mean, words, I can go on and on. Words just don't do justice. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well said. And we thank your mom for everything that
Yeah.
she's done.
Tell your mom I said thanks for sure. And she's a real MVP, like the other nurses, doctors, and they deserve a pay raise. So tell your mom I thank you for her service, and it's just amazing what they're doing. So, but oh, by the way, before we let you go, me and Arielle, we partnered up with this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. You should check this out. Obviously, he's a former NFL coach, and
Mm.
they're focused on helping prevent human trafficking. So we partnered up with them 3 weeks ago. We're trying to help them, help kids and help these other people make the right choices, make the community safer. And obviously, human trafficking is still horrible in this generation, but so now they're going to come up with ways how to prevent it. So I'm really grateful that we are part of this, helping them out. When you get a chance, check out the Hugh Jackson Foundation and tell us how it is. Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll check it out right when we get off.
Yeah, thank you. And this wraps up episode 653 with RJ Nealon, Arielle's friend, former ESPN intern, Special Olympics reporter from Alabama. Man, this is I think this is an inspiring interview we have done here. You keep up the great work. Man, keep inspiring these other people that are trying to be in the same business, and and happy New Year to you and your family. Stay safe and just keep rocking, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me on.
No problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.